Hi everybody. I am glad to see you here, and I'm looking forward to sharing some of this information with you. I think you all know who I am. My name is Anjali Mazel. I am the founder and CEO of Anja Education Consultants. I am a former ACE parent and TED Talk speaker and college admissions advisor. And, my mission really at Anja Education is to empower families with the understanding of how college admissions works so that they can put that into practice and not only gain an edge, but really navigate this process with sanity and even joy. Yes, I'm here to tell you that it is impossible to end with a smile on your face through the ups and downs of the college planning and application process. So today we're going to talk about a kind of blueprint for high school, understanding how to set students up for success so that their high school years foster well-being as well as academic success and good college admission results. So what I wanted to start out with is kind of an overview of what we're going to be talking about today. So, to start out with, we kind of have to know what the criteria are for college admissions to understand the strategy behind some of the steps that I'm going to recommend. So that's the first thing we're going to look at. And then we're going to look at a tool for planning high school in a way that fosters both well-being and sets students up for college admissions and scholarship success, which is the talent development timeline, the 3 Ds of talent development. And then we're going to look at the do's and don'ts for combining well-being with high school success. So let's start with those criteria. How are colleges looking at the applicants who come in? Well, there are some wild cards. There are some aspects that are not in a student's control, not in a family's control. Those include things like how specific colleges manage their yield, which means the percentage of students admitted that actually enroll. Some colleges are really driven to try to predict if they admit student X, how likely is that student to enroll? And that can have consequences for the college admissions process. But I just wanted to briefly mention them so you understand that there are factors outside a student's and a family's control, including a need for colleges to create diverse freshman classes. That doesn't mean only from the point of view of the ethnicity, but it also means that each student is going to contribute something really unique, that when you combine all those students together, it creates a really well-rounded freshman class for that college. And then other aspects, first-generation students, colleges are on the lookout for that, but that's not something that obviously a student or a family can impact. And also legacy and donations. These are part of the kind of reality of college admissions today. However, there are many things that you can actually impact. And so if we look at the weighting, more or less, right, this is not set in stone, but this kind of gives you an idea. The most important aspect for college admissions is going to be academics. It's not going to be just GPA as a number, a raw number. It's going to be in the context of how much the student has challenged themselves. It's what we call rigor of the curriculum. Often that translates as AP classes, IB classes. Sometimes that translates as honors classes or other designations. And then the scores. So, there's a lot of talk about test optional policies for colleges, but really some colleges now are bringing them back. And until all colleges eliminate them, like the UC system has, the UC system like UCLA, UC Berkeley, they don't even look at scores anymore. But until that happens across the board, we do have to look at some test prep, and we do, and this can be very impactful for students if they do well. So I would say about 50% of the weighting of the college application criteria, admission criteria, is on the academic side. And then the applications themselves, which are completed between at the end of the junior year, beginning of the senior year, that includes essays, interviews, and overall kind of strategy. That's kind of 20%, and that happens later in the game. The area of focus where we can really have an impact, apart of course, from maximizing GPA wherever possible, providing tutoring, things like that, to make sure the GPA is in good shape, choosing classes that have weighting so that positively affects the GPA. So a lot of things we can do within the academics. And there are a lot of things that a student and a family can do in the area of extracurriculars or co-curriculars. So what are colleges looking for? They're not looking for a freshman class of all, president of this club and treasurer of that club. Yes, they're going to be looking for leaders, but leadership can be different for different students, different styles. One student may be a community leader. One other student may be a leader in their family. Another student may be, more kind of the traditional, president of the class kind of thing. So there are a lot of ways that colleges are trying to evaluate whether a student has the skills to contribute to their college community. Initiative, so here again, there are many projects that students can be involved in. We'll touch on that a little bit later. Colleges are looking for creative students, and that means creative in different areas. Not all creativity as you know, is about the visual and performing arts. There can be a lot of other kinds of creative contributions. And all of these things put together can create what we call the hook, right? There can be all sorts of different kinds of hooks. Some of them are athletic, right? That can make, for athletes, that can make a big difference. Some of the hooks are more creative. Some, it's like a combination. Ultimately, what we're going to want is to help the students have a high school experience that not only is beneficial to them for their personal growth, their growth as students, as people, but also that's going to set them up to be able to stand out in the college admissions process that has gotten more and more selective for the top schools. Okay, so next we're going to look at that chart, but kind of spelled out a little bit clearer. The student-centered criteria that can be optimized. So the strength of a high school curriculum, the high school profile, so that depends which high school a student is attending. So let me explain. Colleges know that there are certain high schools that they have had very good students come from. So they have kind of a relationship with those high schools. They know the quality of the curriculum of that high school. And so that can make a difference. But if a student is going to a school that is newer or smaller, then it's important for that school to be able to write a high school profile that is going to be compelling and that's going to really explain to admissions the context of the curriculum, how challenging the courses are. If you are homeschooling your child, then this writing of your homeschool high school profile is going to be extremely important. The other thing that can be optimized, obviously, is cumulative high school GPA. Colleges are looking for students who improve over time, right? Now, ideally, from the just GPA, exclusively from the GPA point of view, it's great to hit the ground running and do really well from freshman year, but that's not the story for all students, and that's okay. Let's see if there can be an upward trend. And then class rank, some colleges claim the class rank isn't important. The truth of the matter is, especially with very large high schools and very large competitive high schools, but that can be true also for smaller schools, colleges are not going to admit 50 or 100 students from these schools. So in the end, whether we say it explicitly or not, class rank is going to have an impact. It is not the deciding factor usually, but it can have an impact. And then SAT or ACT scores and AP and IB scores, more and more AP scores that used to just be used for placement are now being used for admissions to kind of support, because there's a lot of grade inflation across the country. And so colleges are looking at test scores, including AP and IB, to kind of see level the playing field. And then what does leadership mean? We talked a little bit about it before, but it can cover all sorts of things, including students who have to work to contribute to the family income. So student jobs, it can be volunteering, it can be internships, it can be research, it can be leadership within the family, within clubs, and the list goes on. So the important thing is to think outside the box here and to realize that it can be many things, but colleges do want to see initiative. They want to see investment, engagement, and impact. Okay, and then any special abilities, talents, and achievements, whether it's, again, it's something artistic, or it could be competitions that are within STEM, for example. I mean, there are all sorts of ways to demonstrate those talents. We'll talk about that a little later. They're also looking at writing skills and the ability of a student to do self-reflection in the college essays. This is why when students work with us, we really spend a lot of time helping them with those essays. And then letters of recommendation. So when a student begins their high school career, I think it's really important to tell them, there are ways that you can set yourself up for great letters of recommendation. Now, you can communicate this to them without making it transactional, right? Where you're prioritizing, the truth is, the relationships that they develop with their teachers, it's going to bring them a lot. It's going to be very rewarding for them on a personal level. But, there's nothing wrong with just keeping in mind that some of these teachers are going to end up writing letters of recommendation. So it's always a good, I think, to microdose the introduction of the idea of strategy early in high school, but not overdo it, right? Because we want the kids to really prioritize their intrinsic appreciation of why they engage with other people, with their studies, with their activities. It's just that as adults, we keep that strategy in mind when we are guiding them through this process, okay? So anyway, back to how these criteria, I have ranked them here. So they are ranked in order of importance. If there are obstacles overcome, special circumstances, those can be taken into consideration by the colleges. And then, as I mentioned, the yield before, there are ways to demonstrate to a college, if this is, top choice, that some colleges do track demonstrated interest, how much a student shows that they are interested in the school. So those are the main ones, right? Now, what cannot be optimized? We went through this before. If a student is first generation, that depends on their circumstances. Their contribution to diversity also depends on their circumstances, legacy status, and full pay students and donors. So colleges are looking, especially the most selective colleges in the country, the private colleges, they are looking for all of these things. And that's just part of the landscape today that one needs to understand. Okay. And so now, it kind of leads us to, so what do we have our kids focus on in high school? Well, let's start with something quite basic and big picture, which is how to how to guide them through the ups and downs of the high school journey and the college planning journey. One great tool is growth mindset. Growth mindset asks, when a student faces a setback, asks, what can I learn from this setback? And the fixed mindset says, what does this setback say about me? Do you see the difference, right? It's a big difference. So when we give, the way that we give feedback to our kids when they are bringing back report cards, when there's an issue at school, the more we can cultivate that with them, that instills it in them so that then they are able to internalize it and apply it to their own very interesting but winding journey of college planning, right? Now, growth mindset does not mean pushing students to try harder or be positive. It's more really about helping them to improve their strategies and to, it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. There's a difference between praising the process, which is, strategy and joy, versus praising effort or just, praising results. So this is just something to think about. I am not a psychologist. I come to this with the experience that I've had, both as a parent and with students, where I see that this is a very useful tool. Okay, so the other thing is helping them to learn the critical thinking skills, prioritizing, making sure that they're learning those critical thinking skills are. The conversations you might have had in middle school about what the goals of middle school were, that's great. And then having conversations about some of the, goals of high school. The qualitative aspect of report cards is, the story kind of for the schools that do that. That's very, very helpful. And then also if there are gaps, right? If there are academic gaps, this is not about whitewashing something that is not working. It's more about helping them fill those gaps. If they're struggling in a subject, tutoring might be the thing. What I recommend is don't wait too long. Don't wait for the GPA to tank. Be proactive in these areas. And then, another focus for high school is study and management skills, as opposed to just grades, right? So if we help our kids, if we notice progress with their skills, the focus should be not just on effort, but on learning those time management and study skills as early as possible, because that is one of the best contributors to good academic results. And then, see what is realistic to expect, because some students may do very well with a very heavy course load from day one. Others may have to ease into high school and not take on APs until sophomore year. So it really should be tailored to your student. You should just know that the AP classes, the IB classes, the honors classes, what most high schools do is they give a GPA boost. In other words, they add on points for students who are taking these classes. They add on. And so the question always is, people ask me, well, how many APs should my student take? How many IB classes? How many honors classes? It's walking the line. You want students to do well, but also to be challenged. So, ideal case scenario, they take super challenging classes all around and do really well. But that's not for everybody, right? Sometimes the trajectory is more kind of, it has to be calibrated to the student. So it's very important as you're doing this to keep prioritizing student well-being. As you probably know, mental health epidemic in the US is for teens is really, really high. So we want to be sure that they are getting enough sleep, that they're having downtime and social time and family time. So, otherwise the kids end up turning into what former Yale professor William Deresiewicz calls excellent sheep. And that's not what we want for our kids, right? Good. So apart from growth mindset, focusing on critical thinking skills, helping them develop those, helping them develop study and management skills. Now, time management. Now, how do we do that? Now, some high schools are great at teaching these kids, teaching these skills to the kids. Some high schools are not that great at it. So if you can kind of be checking in with your child and see how are they doing with their, are they learning time management skills? Are they learning critical thinking skills? Executive functioning is developed slowly. That's what the research shows. But if your child is really struggling with that, there are some amazing executive functioning coaches that will help teach a student exactly the things that they need to succeed in this area. Okay, so then what about social skills and community connection? So why is this important from the college admissions point of view? We know why it's important from the mental health and well-being point of view, but why is it important for college acceptances and scholarships? Well, because it's in these contexts, in relation to the community, in relation to other students, in group projects, et cetera, in mentorship projects with professors. It's in these contexts that students grow their soft skills. And what we have called soft skills, communication, critical thinking skills, ability to navigate cultural diversity, many different types of skills. These are the ones that are projected to be the most in demand in terms of jobs with the rise of AI. So it's really win-win. Not only is it beneficial personally to the kids, but it's also beneficial from the college admissions and future career point of view. So this is kind of, an overview of the main aspects. And finally, last but not least, talent discovery and development. So what is talent discovery and development? Talent, is not what we sometimes define as talent for the visual or performing arts. It can be talent, just like leadership. It can be in many, many different areas. So let's look at why this is important. It's a win-win strategy because not only does it help balance achievement and well-being, there's an intrinsic joy. It's the joy of mastery. There's an intrinsic joy in mastering a high level of skill in something that you enjoy and that you're good at. This is from research that's been done, right? And so it's good for that. But guess what? It's also great for scholarships, because when at the end of the high school career, when students are applying to college, well, I shouldn't say end, it's after 11th grade, right? Between 11th and 12th, when students are applying to college, the scholarships can be given not only for academic merit, but also for special talents or for community service or for, leadership within jobs, or, I mean, there are all sorts of different types of merit scholarships. So this is a very powerful tool, as long as we're not pushing the kids to reach a level of burnout. That is not what what we want to be doing at all. So how do the 3Ds of talent development unfold? The 3Ds being discovering, developing, and demonstrating talents. So, discovering our talents is something that happens throughout our lives, of course, but within that kind of framework of the college admissions process and the high school timeline, it's really going to be the beginning of high school, right? It's going to be the end of middle school, beginning of high school. That is the discovery part. And there are many ways, there are many opportunities, both free and for a fee, that will allow students to explore their potential. And we'll see that in a minute. And then when do students develop their skills and their talents? 10th to 11th grades. What we want is for them to be able to demonstrate in the summer between 11th and 12th through their essays, through their resume, through their portfolio, through whatever video they have, they want to be able to demonstrate those talents. And again, the talents can be in all sorts of different fields. So let's go to two examples of students we've worked with. Wilson, who came to us in 10th grade, and his talent stack or combination of talents was that he was very gifted in music, great singer, and also a composer. And he sang in the choir, and he was at his school. And when COVID hit, he was really sad because he wasn't going to be able to do the group music making that he was used to, the singing or the playing with his playing in band with his friends. So I said to him, this is a very challenging time, of course, for everybody. How do you think you could use your talents to benefit the community? And so he said to me, the people right now that I would like to find a way to benefit somehow are the first responders, because they don't have the materials they need. This was at the very beginning of the pandemic. So I said, well, how do you think you could use your talents to benefit them? And so anyway, we brainstormed and came up with the idea of fundraising concerts. Now, the fundraising concerts required a lot of tech skills that he didn't have. He had to learn those. He also had to gather his friends, even virtually, right, to do an online fundraising concert. And he gathered friends in his local community, of course, all virtually, and was able to reach, he was able to learn all the tech skills, get a great program together with performers of different kinds, not just singers and musicians, but different kinds of performers, and ended up creating 3 different concerts, raising over $20,000 and reaching 14 countries. So this was a project that was very meaningful to him, but also because he used his talents to benefit the community, because he was able to develop his skills in certain of his talent areas and learn new skills, he demonstrated initiative, he demonstrated creativity, he demonstrated leadership. And this was extremely important for him because, this created a hook for his application, but it was especially important for him because he did not have very strong GPA. He had high C, low B, right under a 3.0 GPA when we started working together, and he did not have any test scores. He was not really strong in test taking, but his favorite school was Tulane, which is now this year, the admission rate for Tulane is 10%. When he applied, it was like 18% admission rate. Anyway, it was what we call a lottery school for him. There was, this was not the profile of students that normally were admitted, but we had him apply early decision in November and to an interdisciplinary media major that was going to allow him to use some of his skills, leverage his skills to eventually be able to go into business, which was his goal, but he didn't have the GPA for business application. So upshot was he was admitted. He was admitted to his top choice, Tulane. And he's doing really, really well. So that's one example. Another example of talent development is Tony. So Tony came to us in, again, I believe it was ninth or 10th grade. And his talent stack was very much that he was great in math. His family and teachers said, oh, you're great in math, you should go into engineering. But when he talked about engineering, he really was not excited. And he kind of slumped and kind of sighed. And I realized with his body language, this really was not what he wanted to do. Well, when I dug a little bit further, it turned out he had an amazing talent in art. And he didn't realize it, right? He did not realize it. And so I found an art mentor for him locally, sent him to the Rhode Island School of Design for the summer. He realized after the Rhode Island School of Design that he could combine his love of art and his talent in math in a career in architecture. And so he came out of that program with a real kind of excitement. And in his college essays, he wrote about how architecture can be, how a building that he experienced as a child that was very important to his community, how these buildings can make a huge difference in the life of somebody, and how architecture can actually benefit others if planned out in a certain intentional way. And so his portfolio was very much centered on kind of architectural designs. I helped him curate that portfolio. He demonstrated a lot of creativity, and in the way that he wrote about architecture, he also demonstrated that creativity. And his leadership was in his field, in his the way he interacted with people in his groups in the summer. And all of this created a hook for him for his applications. Now, he had very good grades, but still, Rice University architecture is one of the most selective architecture programs in the country. There was really no guarantee that he was going to be admitted. He was admitted. He applied early decision. He knew that's where he wanted to go. And he's very, very happy there. So those are two kind of stories, which I hope have been helpful to you in some way. Now, what does the timeline look like in practice? So I'm going to give you this, it's a lot of information. Don't feel like you have to follow everything to the letter. This is a really general timeline of how to apply the idea of talent development throughout the 4 years of high school, and especially the first 3 years, so that a student is well positioned for their college application and scholarships. But we personalize this with every student that we work with, okay? But this gives you some touch points, right? So, the box here up on the left is really some important aspects. We want the summers to be well planned, but also to be balanced, to have downtime, to have family time. Extracurriculars, we want them to be aligned with a sense of purpose and the combination of more and more what it matters to a student. So it's not like we expect a 9th grader, a 10th grader, or even a 12th grader to know what their life purpose is, but it's more about asking those questions that start to get them thinking, what matters to me? What's important to me, right? Because if we can have them choose their majors, their schools, their careers with that kind of seed planted, that's their best shot at having a college experience that becomes a building block for designing a life of purpose and prosperity. So, and then, the test prep, if a student can get it out of the way by the end of 10th grade, before 11th grade even starts, that's ideal to get the SAT or ACT over with. but that's not always possible, and it's perfectly okay, right? Some kids are ready even in ninth grade because of their level of math and reading. They're ready to do a little bit of test prep. We have had occasionally a couple of students be done with their testing in 10th grade and then not have to look back and have that for the rest of the time. It's also because, test prep is kind of the least meaningful and satisfying part of all of this. So we want to kind of try to make it as efficient as possible and make room and time for the activities that are really going to be meaningful. And then, the GPA we talked about, and campus visits are a great thing to do even early on, but not again to get kids stressed about college. Not at all. It's more to kind of get them inspired, taking them with an open attitude, getting them. Sometimes a visit to a campus in 10th grade can be life-changing because suddenly students say, oh my gosh, when they see, I'm going to be on my own, I'm going to be able to make all these decisions, look at all these interesting classes, and I'll be able to meet new people, that kind of thing. There are, of course, college fairs as well. Now, let's look at that timeline, that talent development timeline. So discovering talents in ninth grade, developing talents in 10th and 11th, and demonstrating talents in between 11th and 12th in the summer, and then beginning of 12th when the college applications roll around. So what are we going to focus on in ninth grade? Study skills, time management. We discuss what's called the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals that the United Nations put forth for 2030. They are very ambitious. And this is a way of kind of jumpstarting the conversation about purpose with students. So some are ready to read about this early, some are not, and we have to personalize to match where a student is in their development. And then sometimes a student will be ready for SAT or ACT prep, but at the very least, the best thing you can do for their English score is have them read. And I know that's not always easy, but there are all sorts of ways as parents that we can encourage students in that area. 10th grade, usually when I work with students, we do an aptitude and interest assessment 1, which is more kind of personality based. And it's very interesting. It's very short, but it starts to get the conversation going. During 10th grade or the summer after 10th grade, that's when SAT and ACT prep should really begin for sure, because that's going to save time on the other end. And slowly we'll be able to build the resume, work on the resume. Why is that important? Because for summer applications between 10th and 11th, there might be a need for a resume. And the portfolio is just slowly starting to accumulate all the different things that like videos and photos of what a student is doing. In 11th grade, we do the interest and strengths assessment 2. We put together the college list, begin college essays, and request letters of recommendation. And in 12th grade, we're trying to get the applications submitted early for a variety of reasons and connecting with colleges. Now that's kind of the bare bones. In between each year, there are the summers, right? Summer planning. So there are all sorts of different things that can be done in the summers. So normally between 10th and 11th, there's, there can be internships or research or summer study or community service or independent projects. There are all sorts of different amazing opportunities for kids. Some kids are ready to do this between 9th and 10th grade. I didn't put it in here because sometimes they're not. So it really depends on your child. It's nice to be able to do the SAT, ACT test 1 at the end of 10th grade and test 2 at the end of the summer before 11th grade. That's kind of in the ideal circumstance. And then between 11th and 12th, that's when the applications are going to happen in the summer. So it's going to be writing essays, it's going to be resume and, finalizing resume and portfolio. and completing those applications. Now, that's not to say that in that summer between 11th and 12th, there's not going to be other activity. There will be internship, research, and all of that. But okay, have I kind of overloaded your brain circuits? Yes, Kathy is laughing hysterically, and I totally get it. I totally get it. Please know that the reason that I put this on here is just so you have a point of reference. I will send you these slides and you can refer back and see where am I on this continuum. But it is meant to be personalized and streamlined. This is not everybody does everything. Okay. Good. So what's next? Do's and don'ts. This is the one thing I don't want you to do. And you've seen this slide before because those of you have come to my talks, right? I'll think about it tomorrow. Not a good plan, right? So it's not about being obsessed. It's not about pushing your kids to some kind of crazy extent. It's just about being informed and trying to take your time in this high school and college admissions process one step at a time so that you're not having to kind of scramble at the end, or your kids are not super stressed out. There's a way of doing this without making it the focus of every dinner conversation. College planning does not have to be that, right? And then do this, focus on fit over rank. We can redefine success in high school and the college prep process or the college planning process, where we take a deep breath. We say, yes, we're going to help our kids be strategic, but we know that there are amazing schools out there that would be the perfect fit for my child, where they are going to thrive, where they're going to excel, and where they're going to lay a foundation for a very fulfilling and financially stable future. So if we keep looking at the big picture, as a parent, it's very easy to get sucked into the kind of, the pressure among parents, on social media, in the media. The kids get peer pressure. So I think as adults, we can reframe the conversation around all the great possibilities that are out there. And then Renaissance kids, there are kids who do not know what they want and who may not have clear passions or even well-developed talents by the time they finish 11th grade. That is okay. Student does not have to go to college with an absolutely clear idea of what their major and career is going to be. These are what I call Renaissance kids who may have a variety of different interests. And the good news is that there are more and more interdisciplinary majors. There are more and more colleges that see and understand the value of helping students make these connections between their interests, because those connections foster critical thinking skills, which are extremely valuable, as we saw in our world with the rise of AI. There are certain things that we can still do that robots can't. So this is a positive thing. And then a couple of other tips. Keep documentation, right? Videos and websites. There are all sorts of ways of keeping that documentation, because that can make for a great portfolio and jog a student's memory for great essays as well later on. When a student has identified one or two main talents, and the idea is to go deeper. There has been misconception that colleges are looking for well-rounded students. They are not. They want to create well-rounded classes made of what some people call pointy or spiky kids, right? Who have specific things that they can contribute. Now, here again, if your child is a generalist, and there are some, there is great value to that as well. And there can be all sorts of double majors, major minor combinations that could be a great fit and that would be a great foundation for certain careers. The way to help kids develop these talents in a deep way is to help them focus on the joy of the process and the joy of mastery, rather than focusing always on the results. That's a tool that I'm sharing. And then it is important to get informed guidance. Wherever you find it is fine, but keep in mind that the average number of public school students to counselors in the country is about 455 to 1. Ask yourself, how much guidance on the college admissions and planning process will I and my student need? And you can ask your child's high school counselor, how many kids are you working with, and or how many hats are you wearing? I mean, you're not going to ask in that, it may be in that way, but to be very clear, if they are coaching the volleyball team and teaching Spanish and they're the high school counselor, you may be in for a bit of a surprise, because they probably are not going to have the time to devote to this. And then if you're going to work with an independent advisor, like what I do, be sure that they belong to a professional association. There's IECA, there's HECA, there are a lot of different ones. So be sure that they are part of that. So that is kind of it for me. I just, my basic message is that if we can help students discover and develop their talents, that is a great foundation for a joyful life of purpose and prosperity, because they can then leverage those talents in combination with what they really enjoy to find a career and to really be able to engage with that career entirely. And, avoid midlife crisis regarding their jobs. And so, in that sense, I know all of us as parents want our kids to thrive. And that's what I hope for all of us and for our kids. So thank you. Thank you so very much. I really, really appreciate it.